Clara was unlike her husband in that she did not crave attention. She allowed the view sheds that were established around the house to fill in. She let vines start to grow over the house and the gardens to be somewhat unkempt. The landscape has now, however, been restored to reflect Chester and Levitt's original vision. And it truly showcases both the house and the landscape and is a proper tribute to the remarkable history of the Glensheen estate.
So yeah, Clara was the major heir to the Congdon estate and fortune. She and her 3 oldest children, Walter, Edward, and Marjorie, were named the executors of Chester's will. All of them, plus the remaining 3 children, were heirs to the estate. So by 1920, we know that Clara and 2 of her children, Edward and Elizabeth, were listed as living at Glensheen.
And Elizabeth's the youngest?
Second youngest. Yeah.
Okay.
They were listed at Glensheen along with several servants. Mm. I remember reading that several of the Congdon children married and moved on in the years immediately following Chester's death. They were well into their 20s and sometimes in their 30s when they married, which is a bit strange for the time period. Particularly for the Congdon daughters, Marjorie and Helen. Though, I guess if you're an heiress, then you don't have to be in a rush to get married because you've got money. But the youngest Congdon daughter, Elizabeth, remained unmarried, point blank. I think she just basically stayed behind to care for her mother. And once again, if you're an heiress, why shackle yourself to someone who might spend all your money? So... I just find it interesting when women decide to totally...
And that at that time.
Yeah, rebuff the society.
Now it's,
Yeah.
It's not like it's expected, but it's more accepted.
Right.
But certainly back then.
It was like, why didn't you get married?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think it's cool. It's like, I'm going to be independent, damn it. So there. She did attend Wellesley College, and she dropped out and moved back to Minnesota to live with her mother after Chester's death. And so I looked at historic census records for her, and it seems that she completed 4 years at Wellesley, but just didn't graduate.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting that she just didn't finish it out. But then again, you see, I've actually uncovered a lot of photographs of Chester with his children. He's like either posing with them or playing with them. And so it was clear that he had a good relationship with the kids. And,
right.
I mean, she could have just been so upset when he died that she didn't want to go back, which makes complete sense to me. And like I said, it helps that she was an heiress as well. So why waste time at school when you can travel and learn from life, right?
Yeah, I would probably do that too.
If I
could.
Right, exactly. So Ancestry.com actually had Elizabeth's passport applications, which are kind of a neat little historical tidbit.
Oh my gosh. You can just go on and find that? Do you have to pay?
Well, yeah.
I think that's really cool that you can find that kind of thing.
Right, and passports were done differently. You basically applied anytime that you were planning on going out of the country. Whereas, today they last like 10 years,
yep.
You renew them. So she first surfaces in 1921 when she was 26. Mm-hmm. And she intended to visit Japan and China. And then the following year, 1922, she renewed it again, this time to visit pretty much all of Europe.
Okay.
She listed Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the British Isles, Switzerland, Belgium.
Is this in the same year?
Yes. Hungary and Greece. So yeah, I mean, she was basically going on.
That's quite a tour.
Right, exactly. So by 1930, Clara and Elizabeth are living at Glensheen along with Clara's nephew, Alfred. So he kind of came back, I guess.
Okay.
So they're living there along with...
Just the 3 of them.
Right.
In that giant house.
And the servants.
Well, surely they had help.
Yeah, with servants, yeah. So Elizabeth is 35 at the time and Clara is 75.
Oh my gosh.
So 10 years later in 1940, there are 2 new additions to the Congdon household. We know now that Elizabeth adopted 2 daughters and named them Marjorie and Jennifer. She adopted her first child, Marjorie, when she was a baby. Now, Marjorie was born Jacqueline Barnes on July 14th, 1932. She was born to an unwed mother in Tarboro, North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not remember that part of the story. So how did she get a baby?
I'm assuming she went through like an agency or something. Tarboro is very
poor.
Yeah, very poor section. I mean, I think they were tobacco farmers originally, but, you know, as things went in, you know, into the 20th century, it didn't go so well. When the adoption was completed, Elizabeth changed the baby's name to Marjorie, which was after her
sister.
Right, her older sister.
Okay.
3 years later, Elizabeth adopted another baby whom she named Jennifer. Now, I couldn't find much on her origins. In 1940, Marjorie was 7 and Jennifer was 4. Now, even as a child, Marjorie was labeled eccentric.
Oh.
There are stories about how she would try to set fires and even tried to poison a horse at one point.
Oh my gosh.
So, not all is right there. She was sent to the same boarding school that her adopted mother, Elizabeth, attended, which was the Dana Hall Prep School in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Something went down, and Marjorie ended up at the Menninger Clinic in Topeka, Kansas. So she would have only been around...
From Massachusetts?
Yeah.
And then she goes to Kansas?
Right. She was only 16 at the time. And I could not find any documented reason why she was sent there.
Okay.
But we know that Menninger Clinic was a psychiatric institute, or a sanatorium, as they called them back then. And actually now it's pretty world famous. It's not known as the Menninger Clinic. It's actually got a proper hospital name now.
Oh, so it still exists.
Yeah, it still exists. Now, Marjorie received treatment there, and when she was there, she was labeled a sociopath.
That's
not good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at 16, they know... I mean, I don't know anything about mental health, so they can identify that?
Apparently, yeah. Okay. Yeah, to be labeled at 16 as a sociopath.
Okay. Sociopath is extreme antisocial attitudes and behavior and a lack of conscience. That's just a dictionary definition.
Right. Not too good. Now, being that mental illness was extremely taboo back then, and heck, it's still kind of taboo nowadays, Elizabeth Congdon didn't do much in response to Marjorie being diagnosed as having a personality disorder. Of course, I'm not really sure if a lot could have been done at that time period. So, in the following year, 1950... Claire Congdon died at the age of 96.
Wow.
Yeah, she had a really good
run.
run.
A long time, yeah.
Elizabeth and I'm assuming the younger daughter, Jennifer, who would have been 13, remained at Glensheen. Marjorie ended up in St. Louis, and in the following year, 1951, so 18, she would have been 18, she married Dick Leroy, who was an insurance executive. The couple would move to Minneapolis and then live in various suburbs and towns in Minnesota. In the first 9 years of their marriage, the couple would have 7 children together.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids in a short span of time. After 2 decades together, however, Dick divorced Marjorie. Turns out that she was both a compulsive spender and liar. Also, might have possibly been an arsonist, as her house in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, mysteriously burned to the ground. In 1975, Marjorie found herself in Colorado, where she met and married Roger Caldwell. They lived in Golden, Colorado, where Marjorie was constantly cashing in at the Bank of Mom. She was a compulsive spender, and she had no problem writing bad checks because she knew that Elizabeth Congdon would just bail her out whenever she got caught. Elizabeth was still living at Glensheen, but in 1968, the Congdon heirs decided to donate Glensheen to the University of Minnesota,
right?
Which is still managing it to this day.
Yep.
But Elizabeth got the right to live in the house for the remainder of her life.
Okay.
Now, at this time, she was the last living child of Chester Congdon.
Right.
She was 83 and worth a lot of money. Yeah. But she was also in really bad health. She had suffered a stroke and needed around-the-clock care, which included the Congdon family trustees stepping in to take over her finances. So that was when Marjorie was cut off, and then found herself heavily in debt for all her little escapades.
Oh, because she was spending Elizabeth's money.
Right.
So the trustees decided,
right,
no, you can't be spending
we're
this
not,
money anymore.
Right, we're not bailing you out anymore. Elizabeth was basically living alone, but she had dedicated day and night nurses. Now, on June 27th, 1977, an intruder broke into Glensheen. It would have been quite the heist, given how richly outfitted the house was, because the family's collection of art and all the expensive furnishings were intact. But robbery was not the motive of the intruder. Elizabeth's night nurse, Velma Piatella, was filling in that night. She had actually just retired from the day nurse position, but had agreed to fill in for another nurse who had asked off for that night. She must have encountered the intruder on the grand staircase of the mansion, because the next morning, when the day nurse reported for duty, she found the lifeless body of Velma on the window seat of the stair landing. She had been bludgeoned to death with a candlestick. The day nurse, Mildred Garvug, raced upstairs to find Elizabeth Condon dead, smothered by one of her satin pillows. Jewelry was strewn about the room and other things were out of place. The police quickly identified a few key facts. They found the window in the billiard room was broken, so the intruder came from there.
The ground floor and then came up.
Right. There was blood residue in the small bathroom upstairs, but unfortunately no fingerprints.
Oh.
And since some of the jewelry was missing, principally Elizabeth's diamond ring and gold watch, the police thought it was a burglary.
Just a robbery, yeah.
Yeah, gone bad.
I'm sure there was much more to steal, though. I mean, they just picked a couple things.
I guess sometimes you want to believe what you want to believe, right?
Yeah.
So the Condon family members from all around the country came to Duluth for Elizabeth's funeral. Marjorie and her husband Roger attended, of course, but then that was when the police observed a variety of bruises and scratches on Roger. Marjorie claimed that he had been kicked by a horse. But members of the Condon family urged the police to investigate Marjorie because she was known for her strange behavior and financial issues. And after all, she stood to inherit $8 million from her now deceased mother. Don't forget, though, there was a little incident that happened a few years before this that the family members informed the police of. Marjorie had fed Elizabeth some homemade marmalade, and Elizabeth became gravely ill as a result of that.
Oh my gosh.
Evidence of a dangerous chemical was found in Elizabeth's blood, but the marmalade jar was never recovered.
Really?
So a police report could not be filed.
Oh my gosh.
Now, as the police investigated, they discovered that good Lord. When Caroline drinks too much, she makes up names. Marjorie and Roger. Rogery. I like that.
Yeah,
it's
actually,
like the next Brangelina.
That works. Good job. Yep.
Anyway, Marjorie and Roger were in big trouble financially. An interview with the estate trustees revealed that Roger had asked for $750,000 to buy a ranch in Colorado.
Asked who? Marjorie or Elizabeth?
The trustees.
Oh, the fun. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Why would he think that he was going to get? I mean,
right.
That's silly.
And then apparently the meeting was kind of not turning out, so he said, "Hey, just give me $500,000 so I can pay off Marjorie's debts."
Oh my gosh.
So both of those requests were denied. Yeah. And then a handwritten will was found, signing over $2.5 million of Marjorie's $8 million inheritance to Roger. This will was dated 3 days before Elizabeth's murder.
Man, it's fake.
There was a mountain of other evidence in addition to this. Blood and hair were found at the crime scene, and those both matched Roger's. Jewelry was found in Marjorie's hotel room, matching the description of what was taken from the mansion. Now, Marjorie claimed that she owned the jewelry and that she and her mother had a lot of identical pieces. Yeah. Finally, Velma, the night nurse who was also murdered, her car was found at the Minneapolis airport with a parking ticket time stamped for the morning after the murder. During the search of Roger and Marjorie's hotel room, a receipt for a suit bag from a shop at the Minneapolis airport was found, was also dated that morning of the murders. After verifying with the shop workers that Roger was the buyer of the suit bag, he was arrested by the police.